Welcome to the Hidden Wealth Coins. Imagine a single penny, hiding a fortune greater than mansions, businesses, and lifetimes of work. Forgotten in drawers, jars, and pockets, these humble wheat pennies carry explosive secrets from America's past. One tiny cent, ignored for decades, can rewrite destiny overnight. If you hold the right coin, patience, not luck, decides everything. Sell too fast, clean it once, and history's greatest gift vanishes forever silently beyond imagination, waiting for recognition today alone. First up, the wheat penny is not just a small 1-cent coin, it is a silent witness to America's economic struggle, recovery, and ambition. When people hear 1948 wheat penny, many ignore it because millions were minted, but true wealth in coins has never come from surface numbers, it comes from hidden survival stories. Coins from 1948 were born into a post-war America that was rebuilding industries, reshaping society, and modernizing money. Most of these coins were spent, damaged, melted, or lost over decades. Only a microscopic fraction survived in exceptional condition, and those survivors are the ones that collectors fight over. The real value does not come from age alone, it comes from how perfectly a coin has resisted time, pressure, moisture, and careless hands. That resistance is what turns an ordinary cent into a financial miracle. The history behind the wheat penny design itself adds enormous emotional power to its value. Introduced in 1909, it was the first U.S. coin to honor a real person, Abraham Lincoln, symbolizing unity, strength, and sacrifice. The wheat ears on the reverse were chosen to represent prosperity, growth, and national stability. By 1948, this design was already nearing the end of its life, meaning fewer people cared to preserve it. Coins that are ignored during circulation often become treasures later, because no one thought to save them. This is how rarity is born, not at the mint, but in the decades after, when time quietly eliminates most examples without mercy. What separates a million-level wheat penny from a pocket change coin is condition so perfect it feels unreal. A true high-value 1948 wheat penny shows razor-sharp details in Lincoln's hair, bold wheat lines on the reverse, original luster that reflects light like silk, and surfaces untouched by cleaning, scratches, or chemical damage. Coins like this almost never appear because copper is fragile, easily stained, and reacts aggressively with air and moisture. One fingerprint, one wipe, one fall, and the value collapses instantly. That is why collectors pay extraordinary amounts for untouched examples, because they are not buying copper, they are buying survival against impossible odds. Another hidden factor that can elevate a 1948 wheat penny into legendary territory is the presence of mint anomalies or striking irregularities. These are not damages caused after circulation, but imperfections created at the moment the coin was born. A slightly off-center strike, an unusual metal flow, or microscopic doubling that escaped quality control can transform a common date into a collector's obsession. These errors are unpredictable, unrepeatable, and impossible to recreate, which makes them priceless in the eyes of serious buyers. When such a coin also exists in flawless condition, competition becomes extreme, and price logic disappears completely. Collectors do not think like normal buyers. They think emotionally, historically, and competitively. When two wealthy collectors want the same rare wheat penny, price stops being important. Ownership becomes the goal. This is where stories of overnight fortune are born, not because the coin magically changed, but because the right eyes finally recognized it. A 1948 wheat penny that sat unnoticed for decades can suddenly become the missing piece in a legendary collection. At that moment, the coin is no longer worth cents, thousands, or even hundreds of thousands. It becomes priceless to the person who needs it to complete history. One of the biggest mistakes people make is selling old coins too quickly, especially without understanding what they truly have. Cleaning, polishing, or altering a wheat penny, even with good intentions, can destroy its value forever. Collectors want originality above everything else. The natural tone, the untouched surface, the quiet aging process, these are signs of authenticity. A coin that looks too shiny often scares experts away, while a naturally preserved coin commands respect. The power of a valuable wheat penny lies in restraint, patience, and knowledge, not urgency. The reason stories of unimaginable wealth exist in the coin world is because discovery happens slowly. A coin may pass through generations unnoticed, sitting in drawers, boxes, or old jars, until one moment changes everything. That moment is not luck alone, it is recognition. When the right person understands the history, condition, and rarity of a coin, value is unlocked instantly. This is why the wheat penny continues to fascinate collectors worldwide. It represents the idea that greatness can hide in the smallest places, waiting silently for decades. The 1948 wheat penny holds special psychological weight because it belongs to a turning point in American history. It was minted when the world was healing, industries were reborn, and money symbolized hope again. Coins from such periods carry emotional gravity that modern coins can never replicate. Collectors do not just buy metal, they buy moments frozen in time. A perfectly preserved wheat penny from this era feels like holding a piece of untouched history, and that feeling alone is worth extraordinary money to the right collector. In the end, the true power of a wheat penny is not its face value, its size, or even its date. It is the story it tells and the rarity of its survival. A single cent has the potential to rewrite a person's financial future, not because it promises riches, but because it demands understanding. If you ever hold a 1948 wheat penny, treat it with respect, protect it from harm, and never underestimate it. Some fortunes are loud and obvious, but the most powerful ones are quiet, small, and waiting to be understood. Next up, the 1945 wheat penny is more than a 1-cent coin. It is a survivor born at one of the most dramatic turning points in human history. It came into existence at the exact moment when the world was stepping out of war and into uncertainty, hope, and rebuilding. America had just endured years of sacrifice, rationing, and fear, and money during this time was handled roughly, spent quickly, and rarely saved. That is why the true mystery of the 1945 wheat penny lies not in how many were made, but in how few survived untouched. Most were damaged, worn flat, corroded, or forgotten. Only a tiny number escaped time's destruction, and those rare survivors are the ones capable of holding unimaginable value today. By 1945, the wheat penny design itself already carried deep meaning. Abraham Lincoln's portrait symbolized endurance and unity, while the wheat ears represented survival and nourishment during hard times. Coins from this era were tools, not collectibles. People used them daily, without care, during one of the most stressful periods in modern history. That neglect is exactly what created today's rarity. Coins that are ignored when they are born often become the most powerful decades later. A perfectly preserved 1945 wheat penny is not common. It is an anomaly, a mistake made by time, and collectors understand that instantly. Condition is where legends are created. A million-level wheat penny does not look old or tired. It looks frozen in time. Sharp details, untouched surfaces, original glow, and absolute authenticity separate treasure from trash. Copper is unforgiving. It reacts to air, moisture, fingerprints, and cleaning. One careless touch can erase decades of value. That is why a flawless 1945 wheat penny feels impossible to hold, almost unreal. When such a coin exists, it represents a victory over chemistry, environment, and human behavior. Collectors are not paying for copper, they are paying for survival against odds that most coins never beat. What truly elevates certain 1945 wheat pennies into extraordinary territory is the presence of unusual mint behavior. During wartime and post-war transitions, mints were under pressure, equipment was overworked, and perfection was not the priority. Coins struck during such periods sometimes carry subtle irregularities created at birth, not after circulation. These quirks are unrepeatable and uncorrectable, which makes them magnetic to serious collectors. When rarity meets perfection, logic disappears and competition takes over. This is where values can explode beyond expectation. Coin collecting is not driven by numbers alone, it is driven by emotion, history, and obsession. A collector searching for the finest known example of a 1945 wheat penny is not shopping, they are hunting. When that coin appears, price becomes secondary to possession. This is how stories of overnight wealth are born. Not because the coin magically changed, but because the right collector finally found what they had been searching for their entire life. In that moment, a 1-cent coin can command life-changing money. Many fortunes are lost not by bad luck, but by impatience. Selling a wheat penny without understanding its condition, originality, and historical power is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make. Cleaning, polishing, or improving a coin destroys its soul. True value lives in untouched surfaces and natural aging. Collectors can instantly tell the difference between authenticity and interference. A naturally preserved 1945 wheat penny speaks quietly but powerfully, and that quiet voice commands the highest respect in the market. The reason these coins still shock the world is because discovery is slow and silent. Valuable wheat pennies are not found in auctions every day. They are found in old boxes, inherited collections, forgotten jars, and drawers untouched for generations. Value does not announce itself, it waits. When recognition finally happens, it feels sudden, dramatic, and unreal. That moment can transform a person's financial future, not through magic, but through understanding. The year 1945 carries emotional gravity that modern coins can never replicate. It marks the end of destruction and the beginning of rebuilding. Coins from this year are symbols of endurance, relief, and survival. Holding a perfectly preserved wheat penny from this era feels like holding a piece of untouched history. That emotional weight adds power to its value, because collectors do not just buy objects, they buy moments frozen in metal. In the end, the 1945 wheat penny teaches one powerful lesson: greatness does not always look valuable at first glance. Some fortunes are small, quiet, and overlooked for decades. If you ever hold one of these coins, treat it with respect, protect it from harm, and never underestimate it. A single cent can carry the power to change a life, not because of what it promises, but because of what it has already survived. Next up, the 1935 wheat penny is not loud, flashy, or obvious, yet that is exactly why it holds dangerous potential. Born during the heart of the Great Depression era, this 1-cent coin entered a world where survival mattered more than saving. Money moved fast, hands were rough, and nobody imagined that a small copper coin could one day carry the weight of unimaginable wealth. Most 1935 wheat pennies were spent without mercy, worn down by hardship, and forgotten by history. The few that escaped untouched did not do so by chance. They survived against human struggle, economic pressure, and time itself. That survival is where real value begins. By 1935, the wheat penny had already become a symbol of endurance for the American people. Abraham Lincoln's calm expression represented strength during crisis, while the wheat stalks on the reverse whispered hope in a time of hunger and scarcity. These coins circulated endlessly through desperate years, passing through factories, farms, shops, and homes where preservation was the last concern. That daily abuse destroyed most examples beyond recognition. A 1935 wheat penny that still shows life, sharpness, and dignity today is not common. It is a historical miracle that collectors deeply understand and aggressively pursue. True wealth in wheat pennies is never about the date alone. It is about condition so rare it feels unnatural. A high-level 1935 wheat penny appears almost frozen in time, with bold lines, untouched surfaces, and a natural glow that copper almost never keeps for long. Copper is emotional metal. It reacts, stains, darkens, and scars easily. One careless cleaning, one fingerprint, one moment of moisture can destroy decades of potential value. That is why a perfectly preserved 1935 wheat penny feels impossible, and that impossibility is what drives prices into shocking territory. What elevates certain 1935 wheat pennies far beyond expectation is the presence of unusual mint behavior. During the Depression era, speed mattered more than perfection, and pressure on minting equipment often created subtle irregularities at birth. These are not damages from circulation but fingerprints of history itself. Such anomalies cannot be recreated, repaired, or duplicated. When a coin carries both exceptional preservation and a rare mint characteristic, it becomes something collectors chase emotionally, not logically. That is where price boundaries collapse. Collectors do not think in cents or dollars. They think in stories, gaps, and completion. A serious collector searching for the finest known 1935 wheat penny is not shopping, they are hunting. When such a coin finally appears, competition replaces reason. Ownership becomes personal. This is how 1 cent can suddenly command life-changing money. Not because the coin changed overnight, but because recognition finally arrived. The market does not reward noise, it rewards rarity discovered at the right moment. Many people unknowingly destroy their own fortune by acting too quickly. Cleaning a wheat penny, polishing it, or trying to improve its appearance removes its soul. Original surfaces are sacred in the coin world. Natural aging, even slight toning, tells collectors that the coin has not been interfered with. A 1935 wheat penny that has been left alone for decades speaks louder than one that looks artificially bright. Patience and restraint are the invisible forces behind every great coin fortune. The reason stories of shocking wheat penny values still circulate is because discovery is silent. These coins are not found every day in auctions or displays. They are found in inherited collections, old jars, forgotten boxes, and drawers untouched for generations. The value does not announce itself, it waits quietly. When the right knowledge meets the right coin, the result feels sudden and unreal. That moment has the power to change a financial future, not through luck, but through understanding. The year 1935 carries emotional depth that modern coins will never possess. It represents survival through hardship, faith during uncertainty, and quiet strength during collapse. Coins from this period carry invisible weight, and collectors feel it instantly. Holding a perfectly preserved wheat penny from this era feels like holding a fragment of resilience itself. That emotional gravity adds power beyond metal, beyond numbers, and beyond logic. In the end, the 1935 wheat penny proves that the smallest objects can carry the greatest potential. A single cent can hold history, struggle, and opportunity in silence for decades. If you ever encounter one, protect it, respect it, and never underestimate it. Some fortunes arrive loudly, but the most powerful ones wait quietly, disguised as something ordinary, until the moment they are finally understood. Next up, the wheat penny is not just a small copper coin, it is a silent witness to America's industrial heartbeat, a survivor of wars, recessions, and social change. When people hear the words 1953 wheat penny, their imagination immediately races toward dreams of unimaginable wealth, secret treasures, and overnight fortune. This reaction is natural, because coins are not merely metal, they are time capsules. Every wheat penny carries the fingerprints of an era when America was rebuilding confidence after World War II, factories were roaring, and everyday people paid for bread, milk, and newspapers with these humble cents. The power of the wheat penny lies not only in rarity, but in the emotional connection collectors feel when holding a piece of real history in their hands. The year 1953 sits at a fascinating crossroads in American coin history. It was a time of stability rather than chaos, which ironically makes the coins from this year less famous than wartime issues, yet more mysterious to modern collectors. Millions of wheat pennies were struck that year, flowing into circulation without fanfare, quietly doing their job. But hidden within large mintages, collectors know that value is never about age alone. It is about survival, condition, originality, and anomalies that escaped human attention at the moment of creation. A single unnoticed imperfection, a subtle strike variation, or an exceptionally preserved surface can turn an ordinary coin into an object of intense desire decades later. This is where stories of million-dollar wheat pennies are born. Not every story is fantasy, but not every dream is reality either. The true power of a 1953 wheat penny does not come from simply owning one, but from owning the right one. Coins that remained untouched, uncleaned, and protected from damage for decades become extremely rare in top condition. Time is brutal to copper. It darkens, stains, corrodes, and scratches it easily. So when a wheat penny from 1953 survives with blazing original color, razor-sharp details, and no signs of mishandling, it becomes something special. Collectors compete fiercely for such survivors, not because they are common, but because perfection is rare. The idea that a coin can make someone rich overnight is rooted in human psychology. We love stories where fate chooses an ordinary person and changes their life instantly. Coins feed this dream perfectly because they are small, overlooked, and familiar. But serious collectors think differently. They understand that true value grows where rarity meets demand, and demand grows where stories, history, and condition collide. A 1953 wheat penny connected to an unusual minting characteristic, preserved in extraordinary condition, and authenticated by experts becomes more than a coin. It becomes a trophy. In elite collecting circles, trophies do not follow price guides, they follow competition. What many people do not realize is that the most expensive coins are often not the most famous ones. Fame brings attention, but scarcity in perfection brings money. The 1953 wheat penny is a perfect example of this quiet potential. It lived its life without scandal, without war shortages, without dramatic metal changes. That means most examples were used, abused, and forgotten. The few that escaped this fate now stand apart like untouched artifacts. When collectors chase such coins, they are not buying copper, they are buying the impossible survival of beauty through time. Another powerful factor is originality. Cleaning a coin, even with good intentions, can destroy decades of value in seconds. Original surfaces tell a story that no polishing can recreate. The market respects honesty. A 1953 wheat penny that has never been altered speaks louder than one that shines artificially. This is why experienced collectors warn against rushing to sell or modify old coins. A single careless decision can turn a potentially life-changing item into an ordinary keepsake. Patience, knowledge, and respect for history separate lucky owners from disappointed sellers. The wheat penny design itself adds emotional weight to its value. The wheat ears on the reverse symbolize growth, prosperity, and resilience, ideas deeply connected to America's identity during the mid-20th century. Collectors are drawn to this symbolism subconsciously. When they hold a 1953 wheat penny, they are holding a symbol of quiet strength, of a nation feeding itself and moving forward. Coins that resonate emotionally often outperform expectations because humans collect with their hearts as much as their minds. It is important to understand that true coin wealth does not announce itself loudly. It whispers. Many valuable coins sat in drawers, jars, and envelopes for decades before being recognized. The key difference between a lucky find and a wasted opportunity is education. Knowing what to look for, knowing when to wait, and knowing when not to sell can mean everything. A 1953 wheat penny should never be dismissed casually, but it should also never be exaggerated blindly. Its power lies in possibility, not promises. In the end, the 1953 wheat penny teaches a deeper lesson than money. It teaches patience, respect for history, and the value of preservation. Whether worth a modest amount or something extraordinary, its real magic is the reminder that fortune often hides in plain sight. Coins do not change lives simply by existing. They change lives when knowledge meets opportunity. And sometimes, the smallest cent carries the heaviest story of all. Next up, the 1944 wheat penny is one of the most emotionally charged coins in American numismatic history because it was born in a year when the entire world was holding its breath. The United States was deep in World War II, factories were alive day and night, and every piece of metal mattered. When this 1-cent coin was struck, it carried more than value for trade. It carried the weight of a nation at war. Every 1944 wheat penny passed through hands that were saving ration coupons, writing letters to soldiers, and hoping for peace. That alone makes this coin powerful, but history often hides its greatest secrets inside ordinary objects, and the 1944 wheat penny is one of those objects. What makes this coin legendary is not just the year, but the circumstances surrounding its creation. During the war, metal shortages forced the U.S. Mint to adapt, experiment, and improvise. This environment created chaos behind the scenes, and chaos is where rare mistakes are born. While most 1944 wheat pennies were made as expected, a microscopic number emerged differently, escaping detection at the time. These survivors became whispers in collector circles decades later. Not because they were meant to be rare, but because history accidentally spared them. Coins like this are not designed to be valuable. They become valuable through survival against impossible odds. Collectors understand that the word $1,000,000 coin is not about fantasy, it is about competition. When two powerful collectors want the same historically significant, perfectly preserved coin, logic disappears and emotion takes over. A 1944 wheat penny in extraordinary condition is not judged like an everyday object, it is judged like a historical artifact. Its sharp edges, untouched surfaces, and original color tell a story no modern reproduction can imitate. Time destroys most copper coins, so when one survives in near-perfect form for over 80 years, it becomes a silent miracle. That miracle is what collectors fight over. The real danger for owners of old coins is ignorance, not rarity. Many people unknowingly damage valuable coins by cleaning them, polishing them, or selling them quickly for small profit. The market punishes impatience. A 1944 wheat penny that has never been cleaned, never altered, and never disrespected holds a kind of purity that money alone cannot buy. Original surfaces are sacred in the collecting world. Once lost, they can never be restored. This is why serious collectors treat such coins almost like historical documents rather than currency. The wheat penny design itself plays a psychological role in its desirability. The wheat ears represent abundance, growth, and endurance, symbols that resonated deeply during wartime America. When collectors hold a 1944 wheat penny, they feel connected to a generation that endured uncertainty yet believed in the future. That emotional connection adds invisible value. Coins that carry emotional weight often outperform expectations because collectors are human, not machines. They chase meaning as much as rarity. Stories of overnight fortune exist because sometimes history rewards patience in dramatic ways. Many legendary coins were discovered in forgotten boxes, inherited collections, or simple jars that sat untouched for decades. The owners didn't know what they had, and that ignorance protected the coin. A 1944 wheat penny that remained hidden from cleaning, handling, and exposure became a time capsule. When finally revealed, it shocked the market not because it was old, but because it was unchanged. It is important to separate fantasy from informed belief. Not every 1944 wheat penny is priceless, but every one deserves respect. The difference between common and extraordinary lies in details invisible to the untrained eye. Collectors train themselves to see what others overlook. When something rare appears, it doesn't announce itself, it waits for the right person to recognize it. That moment of recognition is where fortunes are born, not in loud promises, but in quiet certainty. The idea that a single cent can change a life is powerful because it challenges our assumptions about value. We are taught to chase big things, but history often hides wealth in the smallest forms. The 1944 wheat penny reminds us that value grows over time when history, scarcity, and condition align. Coins do not rush, they wait. And those who wait with them are sometimes rewarded beyond imagination. In the end, the 1944 wheat penny is not just about money, it is about legacy. It connects war, survival, craftsmanship, and time into a single object small enough to fit in your palm. Whether worth modestly or extraordinarily, its true power lies in what it represents. A reminder that history leaves clues everywhere, and sometimes, the key to a changed future is already sitting quietly in the past. Next up, the 1955 wheat penny stands apart from almost every other 1-cent coin ever made because it represents the moment when perfection failed, and history quietly smiled. In the mid-1950s, America was confident, prosperous, and moving fast. Coins were produced in massive numbers, machinery ran endlessly, and nobody expected a humble penny to become a legend. Yet in that speed and routine, something extraordinary slipped through unnoticed. What left the mint looked ordinary to the untrained eye, but to history, it was the birth of one of the most captivating coin stories ever told. This penny did not announce itself, it blended in, waited, and allowed time to do what time does best, turn mistakes into miracles. The true magic of the 1955 wheat penny lies in the idea that value can be accidental. This coin was never meant to be special, and that is exactly why it became powerful. While most coins are valued for intention, this one is valued for escape. It passed inspections, entered circulation, and was used by ordinary people who had no idea they were holding something destined for obsession. Coins like this rewrite the rules of history because they prove that rarity is not always planned. Sometimes, rarity happens when the system blinks. Collectors are drawn to the 1955 wheat penny not just because of how it looks, but because of what it represents: human error preserved forever. The coin tells a story of machines, hands, pressure, and oversight. Every detail on its surface becomes a conversation starter, a clue, a fingerprint of a specific moment in time. This is why serious collectors don't see it as currency, they see it as evidence. Evidence that history is imperfect, and that imperfection can be priceless. Condition transforms fascination into competition. A 1955 wheat penny that survived decades without being cleaned, scratched, or damaged becomes something almost unreal. Copper is fragile. It reacts to air, moisture, and human touch. Most coins suffer quickly. So when one remains sharp, original, and untouched after so many years, collectors treat it with reverence. These are the coins that ignite bidding wars, not because of hype, but because perfection combined with historical accident is something money cannot easily replace. There is a reason stories about overnight fortune follow this coin. It challenges logic. How can something so small, once dismissed as pocket change, command such attention? The answer lies in scarcity meeting desire. Collectors are not buying metal, they are buying the chance to own a moment that can never be recreated. Once a legendary coin is locked into a private collection, it may not appear again for decades. That absence fuels desire, and desire fuels extraordinary value. The greatest threat to a potentially valuable 1955 wheat penny is not the market, it is haste. Cleaning, polishing, or rushing to sell can erase decades of preserved history in seconds. Experienced collectors understand that originality is sacred. A coin must look its age naturally, honestly, without interference. The market rewards patience and punishes shortcuts. Many fortunes were lost not because the coin lacked value, but because the owner lacked restraint. The wheat penny design itself adds emotional depth to the story. The wheat ears symbolize growth and endurance, fitting perfectly with a coin that survived unnoticed while the world rushed forward. The portrait on the front reminds collectors that this penny was meant to serve people, not impress them. That contrast, humble purpose versus legendary outcome, is what gives the 1955 wheat penny its almost mythical status. It is important to understand that not every 1955 wheat penny is extraordinary, but every one carries the potential for discovery. History teaches us that the most valuable objects often hide in plain sight. The difference between a forgotten coin and a life-changing one is knowledge, timing, and respect for history. Coins do not reveal their secrets to those who rush, they reveal them to those who listen. In the end, the 1955 wheat penny is more than a story of money, it is a story of chance, patience, and legacy. It reminds us that history leaves rewards for those who preserve rather than discard, who observe rather than assume. Whether modest or monumental in value, this coin carries a lesson far greater than its size. Sometimes, a single cent holds the weight of an entire era, waiting quietly for the right moment to change everything. Next up, the 1957 wheat penny was born in a calm moment of American history, and that calm is exactly what makes it dangerous to underestimate. There was no war panic, no metal shortage, no public drama surrounding its creation. It quietly entered circulation as a normal cent, passed from hand to hand without excitement, and disappeared into daily life. But history has a habit of hiding extraordinary potential inside ordinary moments. Coins like the 1957 wheat penny are reminders that value does not always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it waits patiently, letting time separate the forgotten from the unforgettable. By the late 1950s, America was moving fast. New designs, new ideas, and a new generation were on the horizon. The wheat penny was approaching the end of its era, though no one knew it at the time. That makes the 1957 issue special. It belongs to the final breaths of a classic design that had served the nation for decades. When something nears its end, survival becomes more meaningful. Every 1957 wheat penny that escaped heavy wear, careless handling, and destruction became a quiet survivor of a fading chapter in American coinage history. The true power of this coin lies in condition and chance. Copper is unforgiving. It reacts to air, moisture, heat, and human touch. Most coins from this year were spent, scratched, dropped, cleaned, and forgotten. Very few were protected without intention. Those rare survivors, preserved by accident rather than planning, now carry a level of purity that collectors crave. In the world of serious collecting, accidental preservation is more respected than intentional hoarding, because it proves the coin lived honestly through time. Stories of unimaginable wealth attached to small coins exist because collectors compete emotionally, not logically. When a 1957 wheat penny appears in extraordinary condition, untouched and original, it does something powerful. It interrupts expectations. Collectors do not expect perfection from a year so recent in comparison to older classics. That surprise creates intensity. Intensity creates demand. Demand, when faced with limited supply, creates prices that feel unreal to outsiders. This is not hype, it is human behavior repeating itself across generations. One of the greatest mistakes owners make is rushing. Coins punish impatience. Cleaning a coin, polishing it, or selling it quickly for small profit can permanently erase the very qualities that make it special. Original surfaces tell a story that no shine can replace. Every tiny mark, every natural tone, is part of the coin's biography. Once altered, that biography is destroyed. This is why experienced collectors treat old coins with restraint, not excitement. They understand that history rewards calm hands. The wheat penny design itself adds emotional gravity to the 1957 issue. The wheat ears symbolize endurance and growth, while the familiar portrait reminds us that this coin was meant to serve quietly, not impress loudly. That contrast, humble purpose paired with long-term survival, is what gives the coin its deep appeal. Collectors are not just buying an object, they are buying a connection to a time when simplicity ruled daily life and value was measured differently. It is important to understand that not every 1957 wheat penny is extraordinary, but every one carries possibility. History teaches us that the most dramatic discoveries often come from the least dramatic places. Drawers, jars, envelopes, and forgotten collections have produced surprises before, and they will again. The difference between a missed opportunity and a life-changing moment is knowledge. Coins reveal their power only to those who respect them enough to learn. The idea that a single cent could change a person's fortune feels unbelievable because it challenges modern thinking. We are taught to chase large things, fast money, and instant results. Coins teach the opposite lesson. They teach patience, preservation, and perspective. A 1957 wheat penny does not promise wealth, it offers potential. Potential grows quietly, and when the moment is right, it can shock even the most skeptical observer. In the end, the 1957 wheat penny is not just about money, it is about time. It proves that history never wastes anything, it only waits. Whether modest or monumental in value, this coin carries a message far larger than its size. Sometimes, the smallest object holds the greatest reminder: fortune does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it has been sitting silently in your pocket all along.